Hello everyone and welcome to October. This is my favorite time of the year. And we're going to celebrate that by looking at a few different retro horror games. This time we're going to be looking at Frankenstein's Monster on the Atari 2600. For an Atari game, there is a lot of stuff going on here. You've got a bunch of enemies moving around, you've got sort of like a shading for the upper and the middle floors there. And you do have a few effects that go on in this game. So they tried really hard on this one. It just doesn't really feel scary to me anymore. I could see how maybe it was scary to someone or in some way. I mean, they tried very hard. But this is kind of like going back to an older movie where it's not scary anymore. The one that I can most compare this to is probably Frankenstein from 1910. This is a silent film, and it's got a lot of creepy imagery in it, as you can see. Also, today the video quality is not super great anymore, and it's got kind of that grainy, washed out thing. And every scene sort of has like its own weird color palette to it. Like here for the monster creation scene, you have like this red, kind of like a reddish black palette. It looks really cool. But it's not really scary anymore. You could probably see back in 1910, maybe even in 1920, this would be kind of creepy and it might frighten some people. But today, it's just not going to do anything. It's just not as scary as it could have been. And that's kind of how I feel about Frankenstein's Monster for the 2600. It's just not a scary game. It's got horror elements in it. It's probably supposed to be one of the first horror games. But kind of like Haunted House, it just doesn't really translate to anything scary. But it should be mentioned as one of like the first attempts at something like a horror game. They would get a lot better, but it just kind of feels a little bit lacking. So to kind of get into the story of the game, I guess, I suppose there is one. I mean, you're this weird little dude who kind of looks like the Pitfall Harry guy, but not quite as good as Pitfall Harry. I mean, you got your weird little hat, you got your blue jeans, and I guess like I can't really tell what color his shirt is, to be honest. And you're just trying to build a wall to keep the Frankenstein monster in. And slowly as the game goes on, he turns a little bit more green. And when he goes totally green, he leaves the imaginary room or slab that he's laying on. And he, marches at the screen and it flashes at you. So the only thing you really have to do is keep navigating up and down to collect the little brown block and then return it to the upper floor. And that's the entire game. It's kind of boring by today's standards, to be honest. And when you try to deliver the block, you have to deal with all these bats. At least I hope they're bats. And this is probably, I would say, the second most miserable part of the game. It's not all that much fun, but hey, you can do it. Every time you return a block, the little logs at the bottom, I don't know why there's logs at the bottom of the screen, and a blue moat / lake thing that's inside the castle or in the town or something like that. Now that I think about it, the upper floor is probably like Frankenstein's castle, and then, the middle floor is probably like the street or something that leads up to it. And then, maybe the ground floor is like a quarry you have to go to. That might make sense, I'm trying to gather something out of the weird nonsense that I'm looking at. So I'm a little torn on Frankenstein's Monster because on the one hand, you could see how they could have done something with this. Even though it wasn't an Atari game, it still could have been something that maybe turned into a franchise or something along those lines. Well, it's definitely not scary anymore. I could see someone being a little weirded out by it. It didn't go as far as, say, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Halloween, but you can see they tried to do something with the horror elements that they had. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a great day, everyone.